Mikael Lindström is both at KTH and Konstfack, so we...
Not at KTH.
No, not at KTH, but you are sort of here quite often.
Yes, but I'm at Inventia.
Inventia, I'm sorry. Of course, I knew that.
Yeah, I know. As you can see, I have a grey suit. I'm not a designer. And if I design something, it's materials.
Please use the microphone.
And if I design something, it's materials. And when you design materials, it's not the material itself that's interesting, it's the properties that you give these materials. So I'll show you some of the things that we have met, and I'll show you some things that we have taken actually to the market. Because most of the things that we have seen today is just still in the lab or in the prototype stage. So this is something of the background. We all know that we're moving towards a greener economy, a sugar economy, and even the Arabs say that Stone Age didn't end because of the lack of stones. And so that's good for us, we think. And traditional materials development is either you have a technology problem you have to solve, it's the military, it's medicine, it's aerospace that's paying, or we have to find a cheaper solution to keep the business margins. And we are going to introduce new, sustainable, renewable materials. We do not solve any technology problems, and we don't want to be cheaper. We want to earn some money, get the development money back, to put it shortly. And we want to get from technology push to market pull. It's the forest industry that has asked us to produce these new materials, develop them, but the market has never asked us, could you please do this? And this is something we have had to live with and try to change. A few years ago, I hired 2 young designers in my group. So among us, physicists, chemists, biochemists, and people in solid mechanics, we had 2 designers participating in all the group meetings, all the discussions and everything. And they quite rapidly found out that we, the scientists, we speak with the R&D department in the industry. We speak the same language in this case, and we have the same background. It's our friends, and it's no problem with the communication if I keep in front of this microphone. And we like to make new things. At the same time, you have the designer who's working with the same company, but with the market department. And the market people, they consider the R&D department to be the fire brigade that will help when something has gone wrong with the delivery. And they get some bonus if they sell a lot, and they can only sell the things that you're producing today. So they are not so interested in new things. And there is almost no there is a very bad communication between the market department and the R&D. And there is definitely no communication between the scientist and the designer. And this is what we wanted to close, to make something that we call R&D and D instead of the separate thing. And we developed something called hierarchic design, which I will skip through. Just briefly, we design components, which are the things that we put together to make a material. The material consists of different components, like the polymer and the fiber. And then you have the product design. And this is hierarchic. I mean, it's the product that decides the properties you need in the material. It's beautiful slides, but we skip them. And we also found that what's interesting is the material identity. We don't care so much about breaking the world records. I mean, with Lars Berglund and all, when I'm the scientist, I also have to break the world record so that I can publish and show the rest of the world that I exist. But the market doesn't care if I'm the best one in running 101 meters. So I have to do something that's interesting. And we found that the material identity, the global experience of a material. When I spoke to young designers or architects that ask for new materials, I showed them the modulus and tables and all these kind of things. I gave them a small piece of the material, and they said, oh, I love the feeling. I like the sound in this material. We have never been trying to do science about the taste of the material or the feeling, the touch. We were just looking at the modulus and things we could publish. So we needed to do something that people asked for. So now we have 4 perception psychologists with whom we are working on the experienced or the perceived properties of a material. what makes this material feel natural, what is quality when it comes to material properties, what's acoustics, and all these things that the designer and the market are interested in. So that's what we are trying to understand nowadays. And also, when we introduce new materials to the market, we cannot make traditional Chippendale furniture or something else. It will be fake. So we have to present it with a new design language, at least in the beginning, so that people realize that this is a new material. It's a material with unique properties. It's not fake. We have had some projects where we have had students from the Konstfack working in our research laboratories, and we have presented this at the design fair in Milano, which has been very rewarding. We have gotten enormous feedback. This is a plastic paper bag. It's made from chitosan and cellulosic fibers. The chitosan is from crab shell, and the cellulose is from wood. But how do we get the customer to understand that this is not a plastic bag? It's, I mean, we had to work with the tactile properties. It's not the greasy fat polymer. It's quite dry at the touch. It doesn't be this plastic sound. And we have to understand all these kind of things, because the consumer has no idea on how to differ between something that's sustainable or not. So we have to make it visible. So we are trying to build the language where we have the words that the designer will use, and we will have it translated into the terms that we use when we discuss scientists together. And a paper. Does anyone have a paper? What's characteristic for a paper? A4? White. That's white paper. And we say that we mimic nature.